Listen to Hans and Scotty today, where we'll have kids on the move in studio promoting Hope in Motion Golf Invitational. This isn't just a golf tournament, people. It's a chance to drive real change for children with developmental disabilities in your community. They will be in studio promoting the Hope in Motion Golf Tournament from noon to 3. And then, as I understand it, next month, DJ and PK will be out at their golf tournament, I think June 16th. So we'll have more information on that as it develops. Joining us now, sitting in for David James, is Tim Lome. You hear him with Jay Scott throughout the season on the Jazz pre-half and post-show, so he's up to his eyeballs in Jazz. Literally no one with coaching experience who is not coaching anymore watches more Jazz games than this guy, Tim Lome. Good morning, Tim.
I would add the Gordy Chiesa to that. I see him at every game still.
Every single game?
Every single game.
Really?
Dude's a machine.
Yeah? Yeah, he loves himself some basketball, dog.
And so fun to talk to about the game. I remember we brought him in when he was with the Jazz.
Yeah.
Up to the U with Ray Giacoletti, and we talked ball screens for an afternoon. And seriously, I think he could have taken that show and sold it. It was that good because there was entertainment.
Setting them or defending them?
How to defend ball screens. Okay. So ball screens really had become in vogue because when I was coaching the first time around with Rick, ball screens were very rare. In fact, Majerus actually ended possessions with a high ball screen, as you remember, for Andre and let him play. It was called one down. That was the call. And we were at Wyoming, and Majerus was screaming and yelling that, one down to end the game. And the guys couldn't hear great, and so finally he just said, get it to the guy from L.A. and get the hell out of the way. I'll never forget it, because I was sitting right behind him. But yeah,
it probably worked.
Long intro. How are you, man? It's good to be with you.
Couldn't be better. You can remember Steve Cleveland's first year. You had to qualify for the WAC tournament, right? Because it was, or was it Mountain West? I think it was WAC because it was bloated at the time.
I can't even remember.
Yeah, it was the
bloated WAC.
Yeah. The Mountain West wasn't bloated because that's
when
the break
it was
off.
Kind of Conference USA before Conference USA.
Yeah. One of our road trips was Tulsa to Rice. I remember the Utes. Andre hit a shot right at the end to beat Tulsa on a Saturday. Then we flew down to Rice for a big Monday game, which then started at 11 o'clock Texas time, Central time.
Does Fear the Curtain mean anything to you?
Does what?
Fear the Curtain at Rice. Because there's that stage with the curtain behind it.
And the students all came in pajamas.
Yeah. That's a peculiar gym. We played there with the Utah with Ray when I was there.
And so the Utes won both those games, and it's like 1:30 in the morning now, and Majerus comes out and he wants to talk. The media wants to interview him because they view him as a charismatic, funny dude and all that stuff. The rep that he had nationally, and he says, "Well, I got to go. I got to do something." And the TV people started to groan. He says, "What's your deal? You're way past deadline. It's not like you're on deadline right now, so you can wait 5 minutes."
He called him out.
Yeah, he was right. There was no more deadlines. It was 1:30 in the morning. We were done.
And the internet was
right.
wasn't a thing.
No. So you weren't posting anything immediately. And I just looked at the guys that. The guy's right. He'll be back. He says he's going to be back in 5 minutes. He'll be back in 5 minutes. I don't know. He went to talk to somebody, say hello or whatever. But, yeah, it just cracked me up because he knew so much of how the media worked and everything. He knew that no one was on deadline anymore. That had long since passed. So, yeah. So the Cougs needed to win. They went down to New Mexico. New Mexico had a 40-some game winning streak. They win there. Then we go over to El Paso. And they needed to win that game to qualify for the tournament. So they would leave from El Paso straight to Vegas. And that thing went triple overtime. And I think in the third overtime, I think Cleveland's play was get the ball to Wesley and get out of the way. Kelly Wesley went barreling down. And
man, was he tough.
He was. Yeah.
He is. He still is very tough. I run into him all the time. And I've got tons of respect for the Wesley clan.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's one of the guys who helped raise that program.
For sure.
Because it was down in the dumps.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so he was a premier guy for them. Yeah, and McKelly was just a hard-nosed kid who laid it all on the line every time. Ended up getting the NCAA tournament before he was done, so it was a highly successful run that he had. And I know he still golfs because I've had a few people that I know have golfed with him down there at like Sleepy Ridge and tell him, yeah, I know PK. Oh, say hi to PK, blah, blah, blah. But he was a fun player. So, yeah, get the ball. Sometimes that's all you need to do. Get the ball to whoever your best player is and get out of the way. And certainly Andre had the ability to do that. The Jazz, do they have the ability to do that? Is there anybody on the team right now that you could say, get them the ball and get out of the way? Because I don't think they got anybody.
Well, I think in certain situations, everyone wants to talk about things in a vacuum. And the reality of it is all you're trying to do in basketball, it's a numbers game. You're just trying to get an advantage on the floor. The old days of, Julius Erving, Larry Bird, those guys carrying teams to a title, we've seen it really does require a team now. And Oklahoma City last night showed it. The number of pieces they have is astonishing. So, to me, it's it's like a guy like Isaiah Collier. That dude can get an advantage every time he touches the ball, right? But the key to him is most of the time he's drawing the defense. You want to find somebody to kick it to. So the game's definitely evolved, and that old mano-a-mano thing, to me, is really old school now. And the new school is, let's put the best team out there. Let's get the best components, guys that can shoot, guys that are interested in playing defense. And if they happen to have a great attitude and aren't a pain in the butt, that's a real plus too. So that's what this whole evaluation process is.
We were all a little bit down when the Jazz didn't get the number 1 pick, and obviously it fell to 5th. So we mourned the next day. But then after that, all right, now you got to have management do their thing. This is what they're paid for, to make this team better, right? And they got the 5th pick. I think they can get a quality player there. There's no doubt in my mind they can get a quality player with the 5th pick. So all is not lost. But then they've got options. And you hear with Philadelphia, with Embiid and Maxey, these guys are looking to win. And Nick Nurse is a coach at Toronto, knows how to win a title and all that stuff, that they want to win now. So they've got the 3rd pick. And with these kids coming out, teenagers literally, that they're probably not going to be able to make a difference that level next year as they will 5 years from now, but they don't really want to wait 5 years, so they are open potentially to moving the pick. And I was listening to Phoenix Radio, and they were talking about, they want to get off the Paul George contract. Yeah, I understand that. And maybe Kevin Durant. And in return, you get George and the 3rd pick. Also, Markkanen's name has been floated out there. He's their best player. Right? So if you're going to get the 3rd pick, which I think is extremely valuable, you take on the George contract, you buy him out, whatever, and you have the opportunity, at least from that deal, not pending any other deals, to have the 3rd and the 5th pick, giving up Markkanen, taking back George's contract. Would you do it?
Well, I want to at least give this caveat. The one thing I do understand is, because I've lived it, these guys we talk about, like poker chips, they're guys with lives and families, and I love that. I love Lauri. I think he's been awesome. But all that being said, you are right now in the midst of a rebuild. Does he fit that timeline now that you missed out on this opportunity? I think if you get flag, you're rocking and rolling at this point, right?
Understood, yeah.
But so now I think you do. I think plan B, plan C. And honestly, you said it, but I think that's where not only the work goes to Justin and Danny now, but, man, we should have all the faith in the world that they can do it. I think they've done a great job doing what I said earlier. They're not just out there, trying to get – like they had foresight, and you'll see it more with Hendricks. Like we didn't get to see much, but what we saw from – in the early part of year 2, that dude made a huge step. He made a huge step with his body. He made a major step with his understanding of the game, spacing and where he should be. But he's just going to be a menace defensively. He's a guy that can switch 1 through 5. So my point is, like, everybody wants to judge these things like, oh, well, Cody Williams, and I heard you earlier, you don't ever write off a 19-year-old kid. His year was dreadful, though, and it was tough. But I think, honestly, when the Jazz drafted him, I think they knew exactly what it was. I think they were hoping he'd have more success. But this is all about that physique you carry around in that league. Yeah. And I'm telling you, you know,
he looked
Cody
like a 12-year-old out there.
He did. It was like watching, and I went and watched LaMelo Ball, Lonzo Ball play as a senior, and LaMelo was a young kid. I think he was in the 8th grade, but he was running with that group. He was playing with all these seniors because that's, you know, what the Balls do. And it looked like that. He just looked like physically out of place. So as that evolves, you'll see, okay, Cody can, because we saw some of the things he can do, but it's getting to that spot.
Yeah.
And that's everything in this league. So I guess back to my point, I would do the deal. And regardless of what you do with Paul George, you know, people get myopic and are like, that's terrible, George. No. You don't understand. Well, basically what you're able to do here by giving up Lauri is you're going through 2 tank seasons in one. Because you just got, you know, that just speeds up the process. If you can get 2 guys that you really like, and if you got 3 and 5, I guarantee you get 2 guys you really like, because Bailey's in the mix.
Yeah.
And then the dude that, and we can talk about the options. I'm not going to reveal my guy yet. In fact, that's better radio, right?
Yeah.
But we can talk about the guys that are lined up in that spot. I'm starting to kind of dig into the draft, just because I have worked it the last few years, and I usually get the call. I'm last minute. You know, they're like, oh, let's add that idiot. So I just got to have my stuff together.
Ready to go. I assume you will get it one way or the other. You get it from somebody, I can tell you that much.
But I will tell you, I've had pretty good feel for, I mean, my thought going into the draft where we took Doak, I was all over Desmond Bane.
You were?
That was my, going in, I always have my guy. That was in that spot. That was my
like
guy.
26, 25, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So I mean, I've had a good feel for just watching it. And
isn't Minnesota's McDaniels guy?
Yeah, he was there too. I questioned a little bit about I was worried a little bit about his character coming out. So he was a little further down, but Bane was. Watching Bane's tape at TCU.
His arms weren't too short?
Well, no, that's what was the problem. It looked like you were watching an alligator play hoop, but man, he could hoop. That gator could hoop.
Well, it was certainly a better pick than what the Jazz picked.
Well, it didn't work out, right? It didn't work out, and that's the other part of the draft. It's not like just because you get 3 and 5. I mean, go look through the history of it.
Yeah.
We talking about Markelle Fultz went from the number 1 pick to a guy who couldn't hit the rim from the free throw line.
I know. My gosh, can you believe that?
So wild stuff happens. It's the drama of the league too. So it's there's way more to it. I mean, you can be myopic and look at it and say, yeah, the Jazz suck. Well, the Jazz have some really nice pieces, and I do trust where I can see where they're headed. Right now, it's acquiring a game changer of sorts. That's what you're trying to do in this draft. If you could get up to 3, I think you get a guy that could be a possible game changer, right. Particularly in this environment with this coaching, this development. I think they do an outstanding job.
The one thing that I thought that you said that caught my ear because I hadn't thought of it is you are getting 2 seasons of development in one. And I thought that was a really excellent point, and you just made it because, and I'll tell you my explanation of what you're saying. I think I got it, is that you're saying that if the Jazz get the 3rd pick and the 5th pick, so you got 2 young fellas that you bring on the team, right? And they will go through their rookie season this year, which means then you wouldn't have to have that player with the 3rd pick next year go through it because he already would have gone through it. So he would be that much further along to be able to be developed by having him this year. Because if you stand pat, let's say you just take the 5th pick and you bring the guys back with the other rookies that will be second-year players, and the second-year players would be third-year players, and Kessler would be a fourth-year player, they would go on and play next year and still be in the rebuilding phase. And then next year you would get another pick, but then that guy wouldn't be developing his rookie season until 26, 27, as opposed to 25, 26. That's the point you're making,
Well,
right?
both the chemistry and development, but also the Jazz just lost or won 17, 18 games this year. Is that right?
17.
17 games.
Yeah.
I'm trying to forget. There were a lot. I sat through all of them. But no, there were 17 of those wins. I think they could have won way more this year, having had more guys available at times.
Sure.
But I think what I'm saying, too, is they went through that and they get one pick as a reward.
Right.
Instead of that, you're speeding up that process and you're saying, okay, this is a fake tank and we're going to take 2 this year. So you're getting 2, but you're giving up something big. But I also look at it, if you're looking at timeline, consider it like a car lot. Your cars are, you floor those things, you got to flip them. And because at a certain point they start to devalue. And you don't want that. You don't want that for you. You don't want that for your play or for the player, because you keep those guys and their careers in mind. So I think it's always being aware of what's hot, who wants what, and then being able to at the right time strike a deal. And that's why I'm so confident, because that's what Danny has, and Justin's been involved from the agency side. They've done this their whole life.
Right. And if I'm Philadelphia, I think that Kevin Durant's a better player individually, but I think I might want Markkanen more than Kevin Durant because of the age factor. Lauri is just 27 years old, and he hasn't exactly had a lot of wear and tear on his body these last couple years. He hadn't played a whole lot. He only played 47 games this past season. I mean, he's basically tuning up for his Finnish national team. He'll play more intense basketball than he played here, 47 games. I mean, that's just not a lot at his age. So he has the opportunity then to grow a little bit, because I think even if Philadelphia, you get these guys, I'm of the belief that when you make these huge trades, you don't necessarily see the payoff immediately. It may take a season or so, and then you can see it. Like when the Jazz got Hornacek, a year later, then they're knocking on the door of the finals. The Kobe and Gasol, a year later, they're knocking on the door of the finals. So you need a little opportunity to grow a little bit, and then that puts Markkanen at only 28, 29, as opposed to Durant being 37, 38.
With a lot of injuries,
right.
And a lot of uncertainty. Sometimes I think he's proven he's a little bit bombastic at times too. So I mean, you have none of that with Lauri.
Yeah, and Durant worries about stuff that he doesn't need to worry about.
100%.
I mean, the social media stuff, responding to, just let it go.
Right.
I mean, that's why I don't understand why Mitchell got involved.
I mean, I can imagine the amount of hate mail you must get.
I get a fair amount. I've gotten a fair amount. Yeah.
And what do you do with it? Delete? Or don't even see it?
Sometimes I see it, but I just put your head down and go to work.
You're a pro, right?
What are you going to do? Yeah. This one guy.
Honestly, I don't know that I've talked to anybody that really. I think what we should have someday is a deep dive into PK. We know where he's lived, for hell's sakes. He's been in Jersey and Arizona and California.
Those are
and here,
my 4 states that I've lived in.
So I know.
Yes.
I mean, I've listened. So the problem is, before we were buddy, like I listened. I was just a listener, on coaching high school basketball. I listened to you driving into work every day.
American Fork, right?
American Fork and Lone Peak. Yeah.
Oh, and Lone Peak.
Yeah, won the first state championship at Lone Peak. Before the great Quincy Lewis then took over.
Oh, he was not there?
Not on the first one, no.
Oh.
Yeah, Ryan Cuff was the head coach. And, I was on the staff. But I digress. I guess I don't even know where I was going with that.
Some form of deep dive about me.
Oh,
which will never
deep dive
happen.
into you. I think, Jake, put a pencil, like a pin in this. PK, this is your life.
Oh yeah, well, we'll keep that off to the side.
PK, I was your French teacher.
A lot of skeletons there, that's for sure, especially today. All right, stay with us. We're going to talk about college basketball, coaching, and really coaching in general at the college level, which it applies to football. What does it take going forward? Because the U of U's got a guy that we all want to succeed with their basketball program. Stay with us. We'll get to that next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Cody Johnson, we are giving away tickets right now. Caller 12 at 801-575-ZONE. That's 575-9663. We want a pair of tickets to see Cody Johnson live at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on July 28th. Be caller 12 right now. 575-ZONE. 575-9663. And you can go see Cody Johnson. I saw Cody Johnson open for Miranda Lambert right when they first started doing concerts after COVID at the Delta Center. I like Miranda Lambert. And Cody Johnson was pretty good, too. Just coming up, and he's been making his mark on country music. I mean, I'm not saying he's no Edie Brickell here. Brickell?
1988.
Yeah.
What I've been working on the old 6-string. Jake is one of the most loyal attenders of my evening concerts on Instagram. It's usually just me, my cat, and Jake.
Well, here's the thing. Most of you guys know I do a podcast. I'm usually editing that and getting it ready for publication. And Timmy's over there jamming on Instagram. That's a great way to pass the time as I'm waiting for stuff to render and post.
So Timmy and the Pussycat, huh?
No, I'm working
Not
on
Josie.
No, I'm working on let me run this by you. This is actually a Jake Scott creation. But I'm looking to put a Utah band together. So if you're a musician out there, you want to rock.
Whoa, my
No, you're not in it.
love.
You are not in it. I have
Standards?
how many years have you guys done this? I have like 27 years of proof that you can't sing.
Oh, get out of town, man. I can hit the high notes.
No, but you got to hear this. Jake came up with an awesome name for a band. Ready? Jake Hatch, you ready for this?
What do you got, man? What do you got?
LaComb over. So it's basically, a play off of the
Yeah.
that, right? And so the T-shirt would be that, a high view of a guy with the comb over, LaComb over, just la, and then we're going to do cover songs. So I think it is. He came up with it in a flash. He's a creative young man.
Not as young as many as he used to be, but yeah. Well, I mean, if you need anybody to hit the high notes.
It's not you.
Well, you can tell by the way I use my walk. I'm a woman's man. No time to talk.
We see, we don't. But
Staying alive?
But I do have a little shtick when DJ's not here, and I just set you up on a tee to start singing because I know how bad he hates
More
it.
than a woman. I mean, come on.
More than a woman to be gay.
All right, you don't want to be successful? It's your call. It's up to you.
LaComb over.
All right, yeah. I mean, I think the Utah basketball program needs a makeover.
Well, they're well on their way.
They got Alex Jensen. Now, you were there, and Rick Majerus, I was there during those glory years. And he had his quirks and can be difficult. But he knew basketball and was just got that team in a position to win. And right now, as I look at this program, they need a lot of help. And I know they brought in a bunch of new players. We'll see how it goes. And I look at what BYU's doing, and hats off to Kevin Young. But they're just acquiring this talent that seems to be so enormous. And, the dollars are there and all that stuff. So I'm worried a little bit because I want Alex to succeed. I'll be the first to admit it. I covered his freshman year. I was the beat writer at the Tribune at the time and was there. Covered his first game in the Huntsman Center and then covered his last game in Cleveland, Ohio when they lost to Michigan State in the NCAA tournament. I was there. And so I know him pretty well. I want him to succeed. But how much can coaching overcome lack of cash, and how much can cash overcome mediocre to bad coaching? See where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I think cash is the common denominator, and I think in order to function, the way you want to, you've got to have some. But I don't know that you've got to go out and, I heard Kentucky spent $20 million on a roster.
Yeah.
Which is just absolutely absurd because I'm telling you, when I left 5 years ago, there wasn't a guy on that roster that got a Baby Ruth bar. Okay, so we went from zero.
You're speaking of BYU,
right? When I was at BYU, now that wasn't everywhere, but it was there. So it's just totally crazy to me. But Florida proved last year, they did not have they actually went out and really scouted analytics. Todd Golden's big into analytics. And they scouted analytics, and they did spend money, because you got to spend money, but it wasn't exorbitant. In fact, it was far less than anybody else in the Final Four, and they ended up winning the thing, right? So I think there's a combination. You got to have some, and that's where Utah's been stuck, is they just cannot rally the support for that, to help. It requires people to get out of their houses and come and try to support the team. But for whatever reason, I think that success came so easy, for Utah. It was bizarre if Utah didn't, get to the tournament and win a first-round game for about 15 years.
Yeah.
So the climate's changed, though, and I think with NIL and the ability, because Utah's going out and getting some guys. They got a guy off the Auburn team that I really like. And I think, so now you take great coaching, which I think Alex is an awesome coach. He had great success in the G League as a head coach. He was the coach of the year. He has been around some of the great minds, obviously working with and playing for Majerus. You get an advantage. I really believe that. And so all those things put together, I think it's a great time for Utah to be relevant. And, with a commitment to a guy who loves the place and understands what it means to wear the jersey and be a Ute, hopefully we'll see more people come out and support it, and that thing can kind of rise from the ashes.
I think we will see more people support it. It reminds me of what ASU football did with Dillingham. They got one of their own. He's certifiably one of their own. Went there, wife went there, parents went there, in-laws went there. So it means something. It's not just a paycheck. I always laugh when a coach gets hired and then they bring the wife and the kids will have the face paint. I use Dan Mullen as the example, not that I'm picking on him, but he goes to UNLV, and his wife, who worked up here in television, their children, all of a sudden they're wearing the red of UNLV like they're just diehard rebels. No, you're not. It's a job, and you want to succeed. I'm not denying that, but you're not really a UNLV rebel.
The only color in coaching is green.
Whereas Dillingham, he's a Sun Devil, man. He is literally a Sun Devil. It means something more. And what he did, most of his staff were Arizona guys and grew up there. And so it meant something. Plus, you have the relationships with high school coaches. With Alex Jensen, I can't help but believe that it means something a little bit more.
Well, and I think what they can do as well, and you talked about this, coaching is important, but what they can do is pattern his time in the NBA, and that's what Kevin did. He hit the ground running because he's been around it so long, and he's been in all those steps. He was the guy that was initially throwing passes back and working guys out, to film room, to, on the bench, to now running a program. And I think Al's been there and done that. So now it's taking all of those things you've learned and building something that you can sell to a guy. And that's what Kevin did, from night one. And you should have seen some of the eye rolls in the room when Kevin Young said, we're going to make this, kind of a proving ground for the NBA. And literally, I kind of looked around because I kind of knew what his plan was going to be, but I read the room, and I will tell you this, there were a lot of people who were like, how in the world are we going to do that? But he had that plan in place. He knew what he was going to do. He hit the ground running. And this year we saw how important coaching is, because that team was ready to slide off a cliff. And to me, what says everything about Kevin Young to me, he made one of the hardest decisions. He had to take one of those guys that they'd paid a bunch of money, came with a bunch of hype, and wasn't getting it done. Catchings was playing so many empty minutes, and he had a couple of big games, but he was absolutely, if you watch them, he was killing them on the defensive side. He was killing them in the hustle stats. He was killing them on the glass. So many things that were hurting that team when they took him out and put somebody else in that would just do the work.
Mag.
Mag. Everything went, because he wasn't out there thinking, I got to get mine. He spaced to the corner and was ready to shoot. When the ball got to him, he drilled it, but he wasn't out there making it about him. And that's what Kevin needed. He needed somebody out there to just blend. So my point is, he's got it going because they've got the money. They've got now an identity, and they've proven and played to that identity. So they've recruited to it for a couple of years now, getting Yegor, getting AJ. So they're well down that road. Now Al just has to, in his own way, not exactly that, but create a reason for people to come to Utah.
And you think that, we know the reason is there. We know the Huntsman Center can rock. We witnessed it game after game, and we know there's a great fan base.
Yeah, but we're 50.
I know, that's what I'm talking about, the kids.
Right.
Will the kids know it, the kids of today?
Well, I think the guys, again, Al's really good because the character and willingness is really important. You always hear about, I'll use Jabari Parker as an example. He was supposed to be everything to everyone, and he had a really disappointing career because the willingness part. Was he willing to stay in shape? Was he willing to play defense? Because at a certain point, the game is not about you getting yours. If you're going to make it in this game, it's like anything. You've got to have alliances. You've got to have chemistry and cohesion. And so, I think it's really important. And Al can now go get guys he deems fit as players and as people, and he's got they're going to give him money to go do it. I really do think Al can get that thing really, really going again.
Cool. I hope so. I want to talk about recruiting at BYU. Tim Lome was on the inside of that for many years. We will get to that next. Stay with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Now, every team has been assigned a Heisman contender. Here's the dirty secret about BYU. Its best offensive player barely got to play last season. LJ Martin has serious ability when healthy. Is Aaron Roderick comfortable enough having a guy who will carry the ball 23 times? And I love this pick because that means that BYU will be centered around the run first, and then everything else can come from that, and I think that's where they're going to have a ton of success. The best thing that can happen to Jake Retzlaff's career
100%
is LJ Martin.
Yep.
Not just being healthy, but the run game being healthy, and the run game getting 5.5 per. That'd be amazing.
Your first best friend is a tight end, but another best friend is that running back, because if he's doing his thing, it makes things a lot easier for you. It's a lot easier to find guys open because defenses are keying on the run. So that would be very important for BYU.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Well, we do have a choice, all you girls and boys. You can go see Judas Priest and Alice Cooper. Yeah. Here's what you do right now. Win tickets Wednesday. You be called at 12 at 801-575-ZONE. That's 575-9663. And you can win a pair of tickets to see Alice Cooper and Judas Priest at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on October 12th. 575-ZONE, 575-9663. And you can be Mr. Nice Guy. Mr. Nice Guy. Mr. Clean. Yeah. Alice from Phoenix, Arizona, my hometown, or one of them anyway.
Have either of you seen an Alice Cooper show?
I've lived an Alice Cooper show.
No.
I was biting the heads off bats when I was 15.
Have you been to an Alice Cooper show?
No.
The closest connection I have is my dad played in a celebrity pro-am with Alice Cooper. I've never seen him.
Who was the celebrity, your father or Alice?
Alice, obviously. Nate's a big deal, but
I saw Alice Cooper a couple of times because he opened for bands I wanted to see. I've never been that big into Alice Cooper. But I will say his show is similar to a Broadway play, and it's the same every time. And he loses his head at the end.
Wow. Headless.
Like in a guillotine.
Ooh. Headless Alice.
They have they've got a fake head, and it's pretty neat. I think because he shows up to the next show every time.
He used to have a bar restaurant right next to where the Suns play, which is down the street from where the ballpark is.
Was it by Marley's?
Marley's would be
Other way.
North.
Okay.
Yeah, and Marley's is north of the baseball and basketball stadium. His was right across the street, so it was south, and it was called Cooperstown.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't think he has it anymore, but I'd been there.
Successful, very successful, but it's just not my bag.
Yeah, he's all right, though. But I mean, he's 77 years old, still doing his thing. Good for him. For years, Tim Lome joining us, DJ's out today, that we'd heard that the honor code was an impediment and blah, 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 blah. And, most of the roster when you coach at BYU was LDS guys, a lot of local guys, missionary guys. Well, it seems they're going away from that. They're going just the best players, whoever they may be, that they can get with no regard to religion or anything. I don't have a problem with that. I don't care. But how has what Kevin Young been able to do? Now it's like every top recruit they're in the mix. They're at least listing or considering BYU. When before, it didn't seem that was the way, that you had to rely heavily on the LDS talent, and a couple of those LDS guys that you were in on, whether it be Jackson or Parker, they went to Duke. Now we're getting top players that normally don't fit the BYU mold. How's he been able to do that, to change? And I know there's going to be cynics out there who are going to scream into their radio right now, more money. But it's still got to be more than money. The money's got to be there, I get that. But you still got to be willing to go what was viewed as an unusual situation. Now, all of a sudden, doesn't seem so unusual. You see where I'm going with that?
100%. And it is... the foundational piece that allowed it is NIL. I mean, because I don't think what no one talks about is NIL's always existed, but it was underground.
Right.
So, for instance, a guy like Tyler Hawes had options to go play 4 or 5 different places. Well, a lot of those other places, the deal was better, if you know what I mean, than coming to BYU. And so, like, guys that came to BYU, like I said before, they didn't get anything outside of, what they were supposed to get, and then they were obviously bound to sign an honor code. And to me, over the last 5 years, I have no idea, because I haven't been anywhere near it, but I have no idea how everything evolved to the point where, I understand the money factor, but there were so many hoops to jump through. In fact, my last year in 18-19, I tell people this all the time, I got a call from Upper Campus because the transfer portal was new-ish. It had kind of rolled out, and you could actually surf the portal and reach out to guys. The emails were there. And so we did a really good job, like the staffs after us have, reaching out to people and lining up people. Well, in the middle of all that, I got a call saying, hey, we are no longer accepting fifth-year transfers because the Upper Campus is frustrated. It's bringing our GPAs down, of our programs. And they don't want these graduate programs to be just placeholders for athletes. And so when I left, that was the climate. And then obviously Pope got in, and there had been some changes and maybe some agreements when he got in there to loosen it up a little bit. But from there to now, if you were to tell me 5-6 years ago that there would be like 2 or 3 LDS guys on the BYU team, I wouldn't. There was no way I'd believe it.
Right.
Just because I worked there 12 years and listened, to the council of who we bring and who we don't, and so definitely NIL was the linchpin, because what it did is it took all that stuff that was happening underground. Now BYU can play in that game. Yeah. And so above board, they're proving they can play that game really well.
But yet, they still got the honor code, and I thought that was a hurdle, and now it doesn't seem like it's a hurdle.
I wouldn't be surprised if it went away.
The honor code?
Mm-hmm. Because I think the hardest part, you're paying a guy, I'm not going to throw a number on it, but you got like AJ, and say he runs into a similar problem that, we had a guy run into. So the number 1 pick in the draft, you're going to kick him out of school for that? I don't think so. I think it's evolved.
Interesting. It's evolved.
I mean, it's definitely evolved because
there's no question. You see,
if we had if we had a guy with a 5 o'clock shadow playing, we would get 20 emails the next day from campus, people all over campus saying, "Your players don't shave anymore."
Random or people who had authority?
Definitely both. Random, lots of random opinions and suggestions, but then. There were some, ones that came from, hey, make sure your guys shave type of thing, to now I'm watching Captain Caveman pull his helmet off and pull his Walkman out of that hair. And then
there's no question that's evolved.
So yes, it's
absolutely.
evolved.
I can
it's
tell you
evolved,
stories.
No idea how it evolved. You'll have to ask someone else.
Yeah, a football coach comes up to me and tells me that he's got to go tell a player to shave 20 minutes before kickoff. Pretty stupid. And I got dozens of those stories that coaches have told me over the years. So I think it's great. Loosen up a little bit, not necessarily to get with the times. I'm not asking you to go away with your standards, but just be a little looser, I guess, is the best way I can describe it. All right, we're talking NBA draft. What's going to happen with our guy, Yegor Dimon, as he continues to rise up? He's going to be a top 10 pick, maybe even higher. We're going to talk to Jeremy Wu, who is an expert for ESPN on the draft, analyzing it. So stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.